The child was born who couldn't sit still. 86 years later with no regret. You know that man can't sit still yet. The Great Depression couldn't get him down. He worked for his dad's store in town, collecting money in small amounts. The poor whites and blacks in their furniture accounts. Stetson Kennedy wants us all to be free. Stetson Kennedy wants us all to be free. As he'd collect, he'd talk to folks. He'd hear legends, tales, songs, and jokes. Now this fine treasure he'd record and write. He was colorblind, didn't see black and white. Writer's project for the WPA. Zora Neale Hurston, he earned his pay. Crackers and blacks, they talk for hours. It was a barefooted history of this land of flowers.
The week that was on the 11th of November 2017 from WBRM Radio in Boston and on the Boston Red Network. We have Uncle Carl. He normally has an article in the Wall Street Journal. We'll have that in its entirety. And the life and times of Judge Roy Moore, set to the tune of Judge Roy Beam. But nonetheless, he is Alabama, and Alabama is Judge Moore. We have a new poll out here, and we'll go to the Moore setup, I guess, first. A lot of people are interested in Judge Moore and the accusations against him. One of the accusers is an interpreter that interpreted for various Democratic campaigns, including the campaign of Hillary the Monster Clinton. What that means, I have no idea at all. Her name is Deborah Gibson, Wesson Gibson. She runs an interpreting company, Sign of Excellence, provided services in 2016 for the monster, and she also worked with Uncle Joe Biden and some others, Bill Nelson. So there's various people she's worked with in the Democratic Party and talked about interpreting for people. I've seen that before. It is a very difficult job, no doubt about that. And the inference given here, this is the Birmingham paper in Alabama, said she was 17 in 1981, when more than 34, an assistant DA, spoke to her high school civics class. And he said, asked her for a date. After that, the two other women said Moore pursued them while they were in their teens, while another, now this Lee Korfman, I suppose how she pronounced the name, said she had an encounter at 14 and he was 32. We don't know about her. What we do know is that Moore denies knowing her. The other two women, he said he did in fact know, and he had admitted, like the comedian, that he had dated when he was out of the military. He had dated women in their 17, 18. Now, under Alabama law, you can have a sexual encounter with a woman at 16. And I would suppose at that time there was a lot of that going on, and understanding the situation coming out of the military, the traumatic situation with Judge Moore, as with many other people at that time in history. You'd have to more or less live that time to understand it. But again, not condoning obviously what Judge Moore did, but with the community standards at the time there, someone in their 20s or even perhaps their 30s dating someone 17 or 18 years, the age of the majority. Now there's the thing about the wine. There was some reporting that it was a dry county, but evidently not at the time. 19 was the drinking age, and in many localities 18 would have been the drinking age. So it would depend on and where you were. Now that was the official age, but that did not mean that people younger than that drank wine, just as now in many localities the age is 21. But people under 21, 18 or whatever, do in fact drink wine, beer, or spirits. So in other words, that is nothing new there. Where does this scandal go? Well, we have a poll here from Opinion Savvy. Opinion Savvy is classified as one of the better polling organizations, and we'll go to it. Now it shows that the race has tightened up considerably from what it was. According to this, and I'm not sure, we'll check the margin of error here in a minute, Jones is at 46%, Judge Moore is at 46.4%, others at 3.8%, and the undecided, relatively low, 3.7%. And looking at the tabs, Moore lost a significant portion of his female vote compared to the poll in September. Support for Moore amongst demographic groups have decreased amongst this demographic from not very much. It said a significant from 40. Wait a minute, hold on. Yeah, from 46% to 39%, with overall spread change of minus 14. Support for males unchanged, roughly at 55%. Little has changed amongst age cohorts here, with age under 45 largely preferring Mr. Jones, and we'll hear from him in a minute. Moore also has significant defections from his own party. Just 69% of Republican voters say they intend to vote for him. That's a 10-point drop here. Also tested the horseshoe race with the current Senator Luke Strangelove as a write-in candidate, clearly breaking up the Republican share of the vote. Jones would receive 43%. Lupus Judge Moore at 41.3%, if that were the case, and Lufus Strangelove at just 12.3%. In other words, no reason for him to get into the race, as one would say. And the methodology, well, let's look at it real quickly here. We've got it, and this is the decision Des HQ is who they did the poll for them. They contacted voters from their office. Landlines selected voters were contacted on the 9th of November using an automated interactive voice response system. English is what they used. And voters, mobile selected voters not available by landline were contacted on the the 9th of November. This is a misprint here, 2018. We haven't got there yet. Anyway, we'll get past that. Okay. And a blended sample was weighted for age, race, gender, etc. there. At a plus or minus 4.3, that was the confidence there. That was the margin of error, 4 point. Yeah, well, that's pretty standard in most polls here. I will vote definitely 93.1%, considering it's 6.9% there. And the active candidates, Judge Moore, and if we go to Jones, the frequency there was 200, and this is a smaller poll, a total of 512, it said. 46% for Mr. Jones, 46.4 there. We've given those numbers before. Have you read, seen, or heard any stories in the past 24 hours regarding Mr. Moore, Judge Moore? Yes, A, B. Yes, 82% had heard about it. 9% had not, and 8.4% were not sure about it at all. So, given the allegations made against the Senate candidate, Judge Moore, do you believe that he should withdraw? Yes, yes, no, etc. 34% said yes, 54% said no, and you see where that question is going. In the election to determine the next senator from Alabama, if it were held today, who would you vote for them? And we went through those before, Mr. Jones, Mr. Moore, etc. They were virtually tied up. Would you describe yourself as an evangelical Christian? Yes, 56.6%. No, 33.7%. What is your age group? 31% were 18 to 29. 88, excuse me, this was 31. 88 of them were 30 to 44, and 45 to 64 were the majority, 232, and 65 plus 165 for 515 a total. Are you European and African American? 75.5 were Europeans. African Americans were 22.5%, or 116 in this poll. Others, they weren't really in it. Male or female? Males at 46%, females at 54%. Probably mirrors what's going on there. Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. Democrats at 29 there. That was the percentage. 58% were Republicans. 13% were Independents. Their education categories is quite here. Less than high school diploma, 9 were. High school diploma, 123. Having some type of college or trade, and 93, and college plus, surprising, 54% there. So they're breaking this poll down a little bit. You can see they were quite comprehensive in it. And the media markets here, the frequency out of Huntsville, 103. Out of Birmingham, 211. Montgomery, 79. Columbus, 26. Dorpham at 26. Mobile at 77. So basically 20% were out of Huntsville, 41% were out of Birmingham, 14% out of Montgomery, which is their state capital. And the landlines were 75%. Mobile was 24.3. The only reason we're doing this, it breaks the poll further down here to see where we're going. Anyway, if we went with the horse race here with the evangelicals, yes, this was the okay. This is the same thing here. Won't go much into that one. What else do they have in store for us here? Oh, these are ages. We won't really get into the ages here with these people. More age group. If we look at horse race 1, 75.5%. They're African Americans. These are columns. We can't really do much with these cross tabs here, but nonetheless, Jones with the males at 35.8%. That's first cross tab there. Moore has 55.5%. He has 38.7% of the females and 54.7% of for Jones. And this was of all the characters were assembled, as one would say. Here, we won't cross tab that one. I just seen what high school diplomas, media markets, more across town. It was a fairly thorough poll, no doubt about that. But this was the poll where it stands there, tied in a dead heap, period, in this work of it. Accused Judge Moore. We already talked about Debbie Gibson, for what it's worth and for what it is not worth. She's won, and of course the other woman, principal accuser, she is a Republican type, and again, we don't know much about that. One of accusers says Roy Moore knows the truth. This is all out of the Alabama paper here, and again, this is a statement from Gloria Thacker Dielson via her attorney. Oh boy. Says Moore provided her with an alcohol beverage, even though at 18. Well, anyway, this is the Moore was 32 at the time. It's almost 40 years ago. I'm not certain that Moore would remember her. The statement was issued before Moore appeared on Fox News. In a statement said she was speaking out because of public falsehoods and defamatory remarks made by Moore and other Republicans. There, well, we don't know. On the full statement from Dearson, on behalf of Gloria Dearson, please accept the additional statement on her behalf. The statement is being given due to public falsehoods, etc. In many Alabama Republican offices, Steve Bannon, regarding the motivations of Ms. Dearson in describing her former relationship with Judge Moore. After careful consideration and fully understanding that her character and veracity would be viciously attacked, no doubt about that, she confirmed that the Post accurately reported the substance of her interview with them. She is no longer a resident of Alabama and is a registered Republican, but has no affiliation with the RMC and has not been contacted by the RMC or any other Republican leader. The same is true for the DMC and Democratic leaders. She does not know Doug Jones, nor had any contact with him at any time. There is nothing about being public regarding her relationship with Moore that would enhance Ms. Denson's life. She does not seek the limelight, and Moore knows the truth. Notably, has not denied knowing Denson or pursuing or dating her when she was 18. He has not denied the alcohol in applying the alcohol in his position as district attorney, that she was younger than the drinking age. He has not given a press conference to open himself up to questions relationship with her. Well, said he knew her. It's reprehensible that so many Alabama Republican office holders and leaders of the party have rejected wholesale the magnitude of the evidence reported in the Post. Now, again, in this statement, they refer back to the woman that's 14. Now, in our situation, that is probably the most flimsy one. I'm not certain what is tying her up. Her mother at the time did say that Judge Moore came out and thanked Judge Moore for looking after her daughter. No doubt he was looking after her daughter. Okay. In other words, this was something written here. Republicans fear more loss and explores their options. And we're looking at this. It's sort of a little bit counterintuitive here. At best, let's see here. Humphrey Bogart, started dating Lauren Bacall when she was a teenager. That's anyway. Not unusual. Comparisons here with what was done in the past. Difficult to say one way or the other on something of that nature. Moore lost endorsements from 2 senators, and, well, they were running for the hills there. Moore was twice through. Well, anyway, we all know about that. And his 52, 5,200 pound statute of the 10 Commandments. So I guess Moore's got that going for him there. And let's see what else. Well, we already talked about Denson and her situation. So really, from Haley Barber, old friend Haley Barber, said, National Neighboring Mississippi, do people find it believable? If they do, he will lose. And that's basically what Haley Barber had to say there. And Jones stood to capitalize in places where Moore has shown a little weakness in past elections. And Selby and Baldwin counties, suburban Birmingham and Mobile, ran more than a dozen percentage points behind Romney in those areas. Well, yeah and no. I mean, this whole Judge Moore story here will, in our opinion, will play itself out. For those that believe some or all of the women, they will not have a problem with not voting for Judge Moore. For those that will go with Judge Moore, well, it's one of those situations. The Republicans have evidently several scenarios here to do. One would be for the governor to postpone the election, literally, if you can believe that one, and let Sessions return and get his old seat back. That would be in court for so long, it would be a national disgrace. Period. So in other words, you get into something like that, you're really getting into oddball politics at best. They were thinking about the write-in candidate. I think they've abandoned the write-in candidate idea now, that just simply would not fly. Period. So that option is not one of the options they will be doing. So what will they be doing? Well, I don't know. They just are kind of just out there, from extending the date, letting someone in there. And Doug Jones, incidentally, and this is very wise, he had no knowledge of this. And he basically, our advice to him is not say anything about it. That he would let the media, the accusers, and everybody else bring this up. And go about the business of doing his campaigning. And stay above the fray and not get into the gutter with the rest of these people. Judge Moore is quite capable of handling this. Now, if you recall, there was also the foundation of Judge Moore. That went nowhere. So where will this go? Well, the man has admitted that he knew them, and since he's admitted at least 2 of them and not one of them, people will just weigh that up as they will. Let's go now to Uncle Carl Rowe. He's somewhere here. Let me see. No, this is not the right one. But let's just do a little roundup here of the post while we are here. David Jones evidently was found by some villagers in Niger with his hands bound behind him, and his head had been crushed. And evidently these characters were so hard up they took his shoes away. And the other Americans were found by their truck. They didn't steal the truck, but supposedly they were in boxer shorts and their pants were gone. Didn't say anything about their guns, if the guns were taken or not. We don't know. But anyway, this is the investigation of there, so evidently he wasn't severed, anything like that. There are 2 senators, one from Montana and Lee from Utah, have moved in the other direction. Oh boy. Well, the FBI databases, big data we'll call it, for gun buyers missing millions of records. Now this is a very strange situation here. Before we go, background check is missing millions of records. People criminally have criminal convictions, mental illness, etc., and other flags. Experts who studied the data say government agents responsible for maintaining such records has long failed to forward them to the federal database. As the shooting in Texas proved, they never got the information from the Army. The FBI does not know the scope of the problem, but the NRA claims about 7 million records are absent from the system based on a 2013 report by the National Consortium of Justice Information and Statistics. Experts who studied the data estimate that could be misleading because felons often have been convicted of multiple felonies, no doubt about that. The government funded a 4-year effort beginning in 2008 to establish how many records existed of people who should have been barred by federal law from buying guns. So let me finish this up here. And see. Anyway, we know the records are in the system, but it is effective. That's from the national network to end domestic violence. It bars batterers from obtaining weapons. It's really effective tool that exists in federal law that has been created, but compliance is inconsistent, etc. Well, you would kind of expect that. One of the things that happened. Now we need to find Uncle Carl Rowe. Where did he go? He's here somewhere. Nope. No Uncle Carl there. There are times that he is hiding from us. And he popped up and here we go. We found him. Uncle Carl's writing in the Wall Street Journal on the 9th of November 2017. The Republican defeat in Jersey is unsurprising. The deep blue state went for Hillary Clinton by 14 points, and on Tuesday the next governor, Murphy, won by 13 points. The nominee, Lieutenant Governor Kim Gaudato, simply couldn't escape the shadow of Tutan Christie, whose favorable rating was a sad 22 and going down. The GOP loss in a purple state is far more problematic. That's the state of Virginia, behind the ghost of Heather Heyer. Ramifications for the midterms: Clinton carried the state by 5, but Mr. Northam won the governorship by 9. That's not the worst part. The Republican nominee, old Ed Gillespie, a party hack, took 11,000 more votes than the former governor, old McDonald, known as Bob McDonald, did in 2009, when McDonald won the race with 59% of the vote. In fact, Gillespie won more votes than any Virginia GOP gubernatorial candidate in history, yet he netted only 45% of the vote. In 2013, the Republican nominee for governor took 45.2%, although he collected 100,000 fewer votes than Gillespie. The difference is that turnout was up 16% from 2013. Most additional voters were European independents and Democrats in the suburbs who wanted to send DJ Trump a message. No doubt. Turnout in Northern Virginia suburbs around D.C. was up from 4 years ago, 23% in Fairfax County, 26% in Alexandria, and Arlington County, 31 in Wales County. That title, the state's election, electoral Democrats by 13 points compared with 7 the last time around. Exit polls showed that only 22% of Virginians strongly approve of DJ Trump versus 47% who disapprove DJ Trump. Yet on the issues, Virginians don't formally disagree with the president. The exit polls, 57% said federal statutes could be left in place. Still, independents were weary of Trump's tweets, diversiveness, and on-presidential rhetoric. Trump responded to defeat by saying Gillespie did not embrace me and what I stood for. This is the presidential self-deception. Mr. Gillespie won 95% of the Republican votes, 7 more than Trump did. The president is spurring Democrats to the voting booth while left his own base adrift. His job approval rating in the Real Clear is at 38%, 8 points below his share of the vote last November. This showed up in Southwest Virginia, the Shenandoah and the Shenandoah Valley, the Commonwealth Trump country, no doubt. Gillespie carried these areas by impressive margins, but the turnout was either down or simply not up to the dramatical as the anti-Trump suburbs. Consider, too, the GOP's mass extinction in the House of Delegates. That is the lower house there. Before Tuesday, they held 66 seats of the chamber at 100. Now the most likely outcome is a 50-50 split. As of Wednesday, Democrats won 48 seats, Republicans 47, with 5 contested seats out there. We'll get that for you by the Monday morning quarterback. Gillespie did win independents by 50.5 to 48.9. In the Richmond area, you got a few Democratic voters across the state's south side, even in the northern suburbs, but north and preparated Republican votes in the Tidewater area, where he previously represented in the state Senate for 6 years. So, in other words, they were coming home to Mr. Northam, and they were not concerned about him. On the Monday Morning Quarterback, we'll talk about a GQ article here inside the Trump War Room. That was Donald Trump's war room up there, and they're talking with various people. And we're not going back to Judge Moore's poll here, but that's opinion savvy. We'll go to sport. That's a good place to go now when you have nothing left. The Hawks and the Pistons in the Motor City. Pistons 111 to 104 for the Hawks. The Hornets and Celtics in the Garden. 90 for the Celtics and 87. Close game there. The Pacers and Bulls in Chicago. Boy, the Pacers were all over the Bulls. 105 Pacers, 87 for the poor Bulls. The Clippers of Los Angeles, the Thunder 120 to 111 for the Clippers. The Bucks and Spurs, the Bucks win 94 to 87 in San Antonio at that. The Magic and Suns in Phoenix. Magic 128 to 112. Magic will win some games this year. The Heat and the Jazz. The Heat 84, Jazz 74 out in Utah. The Nets in Portland. Nets 101, and the Trailblazers 97 out in Portland. And so we go. Let's take a quick look here at what is going on out in Seattle. We like to do some more West Coast news here, and we will be doing that as we integrate things around here. We'll go to the PI, the Post-Intelligencer, as it's called, our favorite newspaper when we lived out there, and see what we got going here. Well, 2 dead in a shooting in Seattle. It's not a good way to start things off, I suppose you'd say. The Marine drill instructor got 10 years for dogging out a Muslim. So that's that. What else do we have that's popping up here? I guess we don't have a lot of things popping, period. Now that the election is over, nice tax the rich thing here. The old Jenny Durkin transition team. What's going on here? This is from Mr. Conley, a political writer out there. Ron Sims stepped down as the King County executive 8 years ago. Served briefly as deputy I remember him, in the Obama administration. Sims will help Murray Pick O'Toole, and oh boy. He's now helping Jenny Durkin get ready to govern in a hurry, and we'll put a photo of Mr. Sims up there. So he's jumping into the Durkin administration, I suppose. Ron Sims is an African American, but he is, as they say, a party man. So I don't know where that goes. It's hard to say, and I guess that's the news from Seattle. That will do it for us. We'll see you on the Monday morning quarterback for the Boston Red part of the WBRN franchise. And we have Numbers Man coming up. That's our macroeconomics program. We'll be looking at the New York Fed has a new prediction out. I think it's 3.1 for GMP in Q4. That's the fourth quarter. And we'll look at some of the jobs that are starting to disappear. GM is laying off, I think, 120 people, and some other people, or whatever it was, GM is laying off. That's in their software development, GE, in their software development division. We'll look at that. And we'll also look at President Trump's visit to Vietnam. That will be on BR on the World. That's an international affairs program. And the open source report, we'll be looking at a number of things there, including security. We usually have an article. We review one from Mr. Krebs, who used to be at the Washington Post, Krebs on security. We put a link there for him on the open source report. We partner there with, as we do for Numbers Man, with Cranston Analytics and Cranston Software. So those two there. One does software, and one does analytics, and we'll see where that goes. Nonetheless, have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you on the Monday morning quarterback. Also, we're working on two programs. One honoring Jerry Pippen. I believe he'd been 78 this month, and a former broadcast partner, late great Jerry Pippen. And also on the podcast move, we'll get some numbers from the people at Edison. We'll talk a little about how podcast statistics come about, different models out there from different people that have their modeling, and how people like Nielsen do it. And we'll have an interesting play there.